Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping into something completely fascinating today. We are actually stepping into the dynamic, invisible, and honestly, surprisingly active, hidden world of plant biology. If you've ever looked at a houseplant or a tree outside your window and just thought it was passively sitting there, well, you're in for a real treat. We're going to unpack exactly how these incredible organisms navigate their world. And I promise you, by the time we're done here, you will absolutely never look at a plant the same way again.
Okay, let's dive right in. Think about this for a second. How do plants move, grow, and react to their environment without a brain or a nervous system, right? When we humans, or really any animals, need to react to something, say, touching a hot stove, our nervous system flashes a signal straight to our brain and boom, we pull our hand away. We've got specialized organs for the whole shebang. But plants, they don't have a brain, they don't have nerves. Yet somehow, they manage to grow towards the light, they find water deep underground, and they even react to being touched. So how on earth do they manage all this without a centralized command center?
Well, the answer to that mystery is phytohormones. Because plants do not have a specialized organ for control and coordination, they rely entirely on certain chemical substances. These chemicals are called plant hormones or phytohormones. You can basically think of them like specialized managers in a highly efficient factory. Each hormone has a very specific job, passing instructions across the plant cells to make sure everything is growing, stopping, or moving exactly as it should be.
Here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. First, how plants coordinate. Second, the growth promoters. Third, the crucial growth inhibitor. Then, directional movements, known as tropism. And finally, non-directional plant movements.
All right, let's jump into Section 1, how plants coordinate through chemical control. So, lacking a brain certainly doesn't mean lacking control, because there's no specialized organ calling the shots. All growth in plants is strictly controlled by chemical substances. It's like an invisible communication network. These chemical signals tell the plant exactly how to navigate its physical environment. You know when to stretch out towards the sun and when to just hunker down. It is an entirely chemical-based coordination system, which is just wild to think about.
Moving right along to Section 2, the growth promoters, the ones fueling the expansion.
Now, what's really interesting here is how these three major growth promoters divide up the labor. First up, we have auxin. This one is synthesized right at the tips of the roots and shoots. And its main job? To elongate the cells. It also helps out with root formation, cell division, and even the development of seedless fruits. Next is gibberellin. You're going to find the maximum concentration of this hormone in fruits and seeds. It steps in to stimulate stem elongation, helps seeds germinate, and triggers flowering. Finally, we've got cytokinin. Just like the name implies, it's produced in dividing cells throughout the entire plant. It vigorously promotes cell division, helps break seed dormancy, and remarkably, get this, it delays aging in leaves. Together, these three are basically the ultimate hype team for the plant's growth.
All right, Section 3, the crucial growth inhibitor. Sometimes you just gotta play it safe.
Now, constant, unchecked growth isn't always a good thing, right? Which leads us to a really delicate balancing act that happens inside a plant every single day. On one hand, you have cytokinin, aggressively pushing for growth, delaying aging, and promoting the opening of the stomata. Those are the tiny pores on the leaves that let the plant breathe. But on the other hand, we have abscisic acid, or ABA for short. ABA is the ultimate growth inhibitor. It does the exact reverse. When a plant is stressed out, ABA steps in to force those stomata to close up to save water. It's actually responsible for the wilting of leaves, the loss of chlorophyll and proteins, and actively hitting the brakes on growth. It is literally a chemical tug-of-war.
Now, I know an inhibitor sounds like a bad thing, but ABA is actually a lifesaver. It has a very practical result: dormancy. ABA causes the dormancy of seeds, tubers, and bulbs. And why does this matter to us? Well, this exact chemical mechanism is the reason you can buy a bag of potatoes or onions, which are tubers and bulbs, by the way, put them in your kitchen pantry, and they don't just instantly sprout into new plants right there in the dark. ABA is holding them in this safe, dormant state until the conditions are absolutely perfect for growth.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, tropism, or directional moves.
So we've seen the invisible chemical hormones. Now let's look at the physical, visible reactions. Tropism is defined as the movement of a plant part taking place in a particular direction in response to a stimulus. Think about it. Unlike animals that can just get up and walk away from danger or walk towards their food, plants are literally rooted in place. So they have to physically grow or bend their parts towards the things they need or away from the things they don't.
Let's rapidly break down the four main types of tropism.
The naming here actually makes it incredibly easy to remember. First is phototropism. Photo means light. This is the movement of a plant in response to light, like a stem always growing upward towards the sun. Second is geotropism. Geo means gravity. If a potted plant falls over, the stem will still curve upwards, but the roots will deliberately grow downward, pulled by gravity. Third, we have hydrotropism. Hydro means water, so this is simply the plant parts moving toward moisture. And finally, chemotropism, which is a chemical response. A really perfect example of this happens during flower fertilization, where the pollen tube specifically moves toward a chemical produced by an ovule.
So, the crucial point to remember here is that tropism is all about direction relative to a stimulus, and it's neatly divided into two categories, positive and negative. Positive tropism means the growth takes place directly towards the stimulus, like a root growing towards water. Negative tropism means the growth takes place away from the stimulus, like a stem growing against the downward pull of gravity. Either way, it's a highly predictable directional movement.
Which brings us to Section 5, nastic movements, which are non-directional.
Let's see how this builds on what we just covered. We just talked about tropism, which is directional, right? Well, nastic movement is basically the exact opposite. It's a movement that does not happen in any particular direction of the stimulus. It really doesn't matter where the stimulus comes from, the plant's reaction is going to be exactly the same every single time.
Let me walk you through the mechanics of the most famous example of this, the touch-me-not plant, scientifically known as Mimosa pudica. Okay, step 1, you lightly touch the leaves. Now, instead of growing towards your hand or away from your hand like with tropism, the plant does something else entirely. Step 2, it rapidly changes the amount of water in its cells. Step 3, this sudden water shift results in the immediate swelling or shrinking of those cells. And finally, step 4, the leaves rapidly fold up and droop. But they don't droop towards your finger, they just fold and droop downward or upward, in whatever random direction the water pressure dictates. It's totally non-directional, changing shape purely by managing internal water.
Which brings us to a really profound thought to wrap up our explainer today. In plants, absolutely no specialized organ is present for control and coordination. Yet, as we've seen, they use these complex chemicals that are honestly just as effective for their survival as a nervous system is for ours. They balance opposing hormones to control growth, they use targeted movement to find resources, and they execute rapid, non-directional movements to protect themselves. So I'll leave you with this question. If a plant can react, move, and grow with such incredible precision without a single brain cell, how should we define intelligence in the natural world? Thank you so much for joining me today to explore the amazing, silent communication of plants. Keep analyzing the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.